Hai Dr. Subria.
Hai. Ai.
Dia dah muda sikitnya. Dia dah sikit dah. Mak saya dah muda sikit.
Kacak kau pada berumos. Berumos namanya.
Dah tua dah, Dok.
Dah wiser, bukan tua.
Wiser, ha?
Dah berapa orang anak kau?
2 orang dah.
Alhamdulillah. Dari kau kecil aku jaga kau ya sampai.
Dok, kita dah
aku suruh Haji Ismail jaga kau kita orang siap.
Dok, kita dah live dah, Dok. Dah participant 64 dah joining.
Oh, that's good.
85.
Not bad. Ria pun 100 lebih kata lainnya. Oh, lupa jawab Menda. Can you inform Sida GBS dengan untuk engkau dalam Facebook ke? Dengan Kamsah CM pun Facebook ke? Haji Mail, where are you?
Baik dah.
Haji Mail.
Yes.
Datuk nya boleh diengkah dalam Facebook juga nak.
Anu ni.
Our Datuk session tu.
Ya.
Yeah, because I think CM Facebook pun kadang nya boleh anchor.
Boleh.
Kena turn on dulu.
Because you know macam CM Facebook the one that we have the masa MPC sampai 60,000 viewers.
Yes, betul.
So we can reach out as many people through the Facebook punya.
Maybe there's something we should try next time, but I think we have if we talk about the recorded piece of this event, we will upload it.
Ni belum tekan share baru dia keluar. Share. Indo takut kecil.
I'll get my side to inform that you cast lah.
Nanti tekan ni turn share on. Okay.
Boleh. Ken Datuk, Ken.
Yeah, because sebenarnya with this platform, actually you can reach out with more viewers through the Facebook dengannya.
Yeah, of course you can because the
because state pun banyak platform. We have Yocast.
If it's a state platform must be big, I guess. I think you can explore that.
Yes.
No issue. Yeah. I think we have gained the right momentum. I think
yeah.
We have I think the last session we had with Professor Datuk Dr. Awang, we had about 123 people online at one time. And this morning we're already reaching about 100.
That's pretty good, huh?
So it's good. I think, but people do drop in and out in between. So when we did the first one, we were between 123 to 130 people drop in and out.
But the good point is once you record it, you can upload it.
Yeah, we can.
We can upload and put in Facebook, and there will be more viewers. I can get TVS and Sida Ampun Facebook.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Sorry. I lupa na inform diri our platforms.
Okay.
And then kita tu ada SMG juga. We have our soon we're going to have our own.
Okay, that's good. Then because at times we do struggle with the platform in terms of how far we can reach, and then we have generate sufficient interest from the likes of even Yayasan Sarawak is with us this morning, I believe, as well, and SCDC with us as well this morning. So we do have statutory bodies with us apart from SCS as well.
Yeah. It can be open to as many and does not limit us. I mean, and it's very flexible in the sense. This platform to me is very flexible. And like
True.
you said, they can, katalah kita ada a few speakers, they can do selection of speakers too, based on the topics they wanted to come in. I really feel that that this new norm is quite an advantage.
It is powerful. Isn't it?
Viral je lah.
Huh?
Macam gitu viral. Bukan
Yeah, yeah.
statement dah punya FB. Cuma STBS call. Since that stuff yang then I can connect.
Oh,
It's
no,
hard,
aku
tapi-
Syari.
It's hard kalau call.
Yeah,
Usually
low, because
low,
tidak
lambat nak reply. Call tak cakap.
ada nak nyampun gambar
At least ada one of the stuff.
520.
dengan Haji Kush.
Yes. Kami dah buat kita kan?
Hmm.
But kami forward the link.
Kush
Link the link. Okay then. I just forward this one.
No tu sida ST. Dia boleh extract certain part of it
Rudy
masuk ke Rudy. Rudy ada ST lagi. Abang Sakdon.
Sini kami ada nombor.
Kami beri. Kami forward Abang Sakdon.
Cakap kenal kami.
Abang Sakdon. So macam ni kita nak start.
No, I will kick off at 10. So we have about 2 minutes about 3 minutes before we go. And then I will kick off Dato', and then I will invite yourself to deliver the opening remarks accordingly. Then we will switch the channel, as I call it, switch channel, and then we'll get going immediately. Yeah. 2 minutes going live. Okay, Prof has just joined us again.
Sila Mak, you
Ada-
boleh kerja CNN, no?
Ne?
Sila Mak, you boleh join CNN pun crew.
Is that an indication? Is it?
Mau je kita nak, because sama platform
Yeah.
bah.
Wow. Asia correspondence.
Bila saya ada kerja lagi.
Dah lah lantik.
Okay, Prof, can you switch on your video, Prof? We go live.
Tak mau ambil yang
Prof, I can't see Prof actually.
Tunggu lah tiga-tiga.
Okay,
Line.
good Prof. Is she online? I can't see Prof. We should go live now. Wow,
Hilang lah.
hilang Prof. Okay. We wait. Good morning, everyone. We are still connecting with Prof. Professor Dr. Fatima from KL, and we'll go live as soon as we receive her video and audio. Okay. Ada interruption, so okay. Maybe I want to connect with we have thanks, we have about at this point in time 143 connections, and just to check with all our connections out there, can you please indicate to us, are you receiving us audio and video wise clear? Okay. Okay, we're getting good indication. Yeah. Prof, are you with us, Prof? Thank you for your feedback. We will await Professor. Prof is, I think, some technical hiccup on their side, so we'll wait for a few minutes. Okay,
Prof is still trying to connect. Yeah.
Okay.
Full connection.
Well, she's joined the room, so we wait for her video. Okay. I'm tempted to sing, but I can't sing that well, so I think we'll wait for a bit, and I think we wait for a bit.
Boleh dah.
Huh?
Haji Mayang dah boleh berlagu.
Oh, lama aku naga kamera di situ, pada nak berlagu saya Dato'. But I think I'll refrain.
See the participation.
Yes, we have.
While waiting for Prof. Fatima, maybe we can say hi to the participants.
Yes, we have. I think we have at the moment on my record at the moment we have 150 connections. That's 150 connections. We have close to 200, I think 200 plus invitations that we have sent out. So I think that 150 connections. Thank you everyone. 152 as I speak. Thank you everyone for your continued, as I call it, continued participation in this Leadership Institute Executive webinar, as we call it. We call it the Alternative Platform. Perhaps I should just use the same opening line that we did the last time, which is basically the executive talk is not new for us. Many of you are familiar with the fact that we used to do this as a face-to-face event in a public venue somewhere. That's the norm then. The new norm is to actually find that alternative platform, which is the webinar that we are using this morning. And the beauty about the webinar, actually, this simple transformation from a face-to-face in a public venue to a webinar where we can reach a lot more people from where they are is a classic manifestation, as I introduced it the last time we met, as a classic manifestation of the changes expedited by the pandemic that we go through. So we are seeing that right before us this morning. And we have, as I look through and reflect, we have yet another interesting topic. At many instances, I would rather use the word thought-provoking topic. And who better than Professor Dr. Fatimah Qari to actually discuss the topic with us. And she has actually connected with me earlier the week, and she would prefer a slightly informal approach to the conversation. Typically, the way we do it in Sarawak, berandau as we call it. So we will actually do a berandau virtually this morning. But like any other berandau, it cannot be, it has to involve all of us. It cannot be just Professor Branda with the mic, or I Branda with my mic and Professor likewise with Dato. I think we need to participate together, and that would require us to actually either submit questions or submit queries through the line, and we will pick it up, and we will make sure we have sufficient time to cover all the questions and queries as we go along. And at the end of the day, we will actually upload this recording, so you have time to actually go back and reflect. And from the deck that I've seen, the presentation deck that I've seen that Professor will use this morning, there are a lot of thought-provoking statistics that we probably want to reflect a bit more beyond this conversation. And I think there's an opportunity to really understand and seek clarification from Prof in terms of what's behind, what's the insight, what's the story behind a lot of this data.
If I may, though I shouldn't be talking until I'm asked to.
You may in the meantime.
I can't help to share and also connect. This is about connecting to our participants. At the moment, I do not know who they are. Let me see. Yeah. That the fact that this platform of conversations, I believe we would be able to be capturing a lot more ideas and feedback from the participants themselves. Because it's kind of like what Haji Ismail is saying, macam kita tu beranda lah berdiscuss, we are able to, I believe we are able to provide our ideas, input through the chats, which will be picked up. And it allows as many people to participate, rather than kita live conference and seminars. Not many people will have the opportunity to provide the necessary feedback and ideas wherever they can. But this one is easier. I find it, this new norm become a normal. I was talking to Prof Fatima earlier. Now, after 4 years in this new normal, almost every day through the Zoom, WebEx or webinar, by the end of the day, when we are face to face, we become so not normal to, in that form. We don't know whether to shake hands, whether we should distance ourselves, whether to smile, that become face-to-face become a very odd situation at times, and we are trying to make sure that become not so normal to us to meet, but after 4 years, this digital platform become the order of the day. Every day we are searching for what's next, and things keep moving, and we are reaching out to many more people to the this kind of sessions, because there will be less protocol. That's I'm happy with. Because everybody can come in, doesn't matter who you are, and the participation can range from, even support staff can come in, and provide their input. So it has a different landscape. If I use the word a different conversation, a different mode of conversation, which allows hierarchy-less. That's how I feel. You don't have to salute people like, as if in a normal, in a face-to-face situation where sometimes it becomes so hierarchical, and the level of conversation becomes so formal, to the extent that people are not able to contribute or are scared to contribute because they cannot, in our culture, it becomes so used to kind of, you speak less when you are lesser in the hierarchy. To me, this thing has cut the unnecessary hierarchy. So shall we? Now is what? Any chances that it's going to be?
Now,
You know,
what we'll do
maybe,
is
maybe
still
I can. Maybe I can start off with my welcoming, but then later, because I do not want to keep our fellow participants waiting, and Prof Fatimah can come in the moment that things are getting better at her end, yeah. And that, do you think that is a better option?
we can
Yeah.
we can
I don't think Prof Fatimah needs to hear my welcoming remark. The most important is we want to hear her. Eh?
we can, Dato'. I think
Yeah. So that
I think we can proceed
I
with
don't
your
want to
opening
keep
remarks, and then we'll cut the protocol when she's able to join us. I
Yes,
think she's
yes.
even able to join by audio either, let alone video. So I think let's start with your opening remark, and then when she's joined us, and then we cut the protocol straight to her presentation. We'll do that. Yeah. Why not you? Yeah. So let's welcome. Let me just say a few words. I had always wanted to start this second executive talk with a bit more I think the point that you made, Dato', is excellent in the sense that the webinar has given us a platform that allow us to reach far deeper into the state and beyond. But I guess one of the things that we need to do is to be able to create the emotion through the webinar. The face-to-face allow us to actually feel each other emotionally in terms of the topic that we discuss. The platform will not necessarily do that. So I wanted to give us a bit more emotion. So I had already planned this webinar with the opening that we all get excited about. And I started crying this morning and say, ooh ha. So I think I will start with that again. Ooh ha. And I would say selamat pagi and salam sejahtera, salam perpaduan, salam Sarawak Ibu Pertiwiku. And welcome we have now 171 connections. Welcome to our 171 connections to the second executive webinar this morning. And for those that just joined us, we are still we've lost connection, both audio and video, with Professor Dr. Fatimah Kari. And whilst we await that protocol to be set up properly, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Dr. Sabariah Putit, our DSS, to deliver. I had wanted to say short opening remarks, Datuk, but now I say to deliver your opening remarks. Please, Datuk.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Salam sejahtera. Very good morning. Sarawakku sayang, yeah. Not forgetting we love Sarawak, yeah. And of course, to all our beloved participants to this morning who spend a little bit of the time, please, yeah, to be with us, yeah, in these webinar sessions, yeah. And in fact, as I said, maybe you have heard me earlier, I'm very happy indeed, yeah, to be part of this conversation. And I believe this is going to be our normal, the way forward for all of us. Yeah, and in fact, it's to me, it's a great pleasure to welcome all of you. Yeah, in this second rendition. Tadi sebab Haji Ismail ni he's going to have a very what to call that informal. Maybe the next time round is going not just OHA, he's going live with his new maybe lagu tema. Yeah, lagu tema for this webinar, Leadership Institute style. Another challenge for you. But as I said, I'm a little bit optimistic about this whole thing. Yeah, despite the fact a lot of people were telling the fact, if I quote you earlier, saying that there is lack of facial what you call expression, and also emotional kind of expression in this platform. Yeah, but I think when it becomes so normal, people can express themselves very well through this. Yeah, because life has to go on. Yeah, and we as human being will never be deprived of emotional kind of expressions, which I believe this digital format or digital form later on will definitely be able to capture more of it. Yeah, and when people are getting used to a lot more of it. Yeah, and you like it or not, this is the new normal, and we are going to be happy and sad with a new platform. Sorry, that is despite the point, right? But this morning, the topic will be making connections within the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's what I've been trying to stress just now, right? And in fact, I'm also grateful that Leadership Institute, in the name of Haji Ismail, who's leading the team now, has taken the challenge. Yeah, that I believe that I had posed to him that we need to move on and we need to be spearheading this new way of conversation. And this is way forward for Leadership Institute as the one who will lead the public service, more so the Sarawak public service, in moving ahead in the new normal. Yeah, and I'm also happy that Haji Ismail took the challenge to be the main player and the moderator. Congratulations, you have done very well for these two programs. Yeah, and I believe he's going to be more getting used to it and more entertaining. Sorry, that's the first challenge lah. But
Magic
you have
show.
done pretty well. Yeah. At this stage, I would like to introduce also and express my appreciation to our speaker today. Yeah, Professor Dr. Fatimah Kari from the Center for Civilization Dialogue, University Malaya. Yeah, Professor Dr. Fatimah Kari was formerly the director of Center for Poverty and Development Studies, University of Malaya. In fact, to be honest, I'm very proud of her as a Sarakian, who have hailed a long way and become key players in University Malaya, a very prominent figure, yeah, and expertise in her own rights. Yeah? In fact, earlier on we have been working together on and having conversation on a number of areas. Yeah. And she headed also the department of, very apt for her to be here this morning. She headed the Department of Economics and also the former Deputy Dean of Undergraduate and Postgraduate Faculty of Economics and Administration, Universiti Malaya. Ya, saya pun alumni Universiti Malaya lah, sama dengan Haji Ismail nak. Si. Si, Oh,
Ya.
terduk kelai ke?
Si.
She has published.
Saya alumni St. Joseph Pajak Dolong. Joseph Pajak.
Okay. He has published and presented many scholarly papers in the area of environment and poverty indexing, and environment and growth. She has been the consultant for several consultancy projects sponsored by Ministry of Energy, Green Technology and Water, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, and Economic Planning Unit, Prime Minister's Department, UNDP, Malaysia, JCOP, and Ministry of Communication and Multimedia, Malaysia. As I said, he is very apt person to talk about what the topics we have been will be discussing today. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the information age has brought us a lot of new things, and if technology hasn't already affected our face-to-face interaction with others, the coronavirus is elevating the catalyst for humans to become further disconnected, and this time it is without much choice. Yeah, social distancing, no more than 10 people, 6 feet apart, self-quarantine, no home visit, no festive visits or visits for that matter. Stay home is the order of the day. Yeah, that is all what we hear. Yeah, some scientists even predict that our social lives will look quite different post coronavirus, never to return to what it used to be. Well, let us see. Yeah, that's my word. Yeah, let us see. Yeah, it looks like the game that we're having today is kind of thrown to us. Yeah, is thrown to us, and we sometimes do not know what to expect. Yeah, even though we much depend on WHO kind of consolidation of research and findings day by day. Yeah, there seems to be new findings. Yeah, so I think the world is so much dependent on the research and the new developments that are being put to us. Yeah, and the decisions we make also depends on those new findings. Yeah, right. How do we make connections then during this time while we are physically removed from one another? How can we stay connected? We all need social bonds that rope us together as we face this crisis at a community level, yeah, and on a state level, on a state scale as well, yeah. And I believe it's not just at the state, because the state is not deprived or isolated from the rest of the world. When the world now, for example, a global world that we used to be, are so borderless. Yeah, we used to talk about borderless. It's a global village, borderless countries. Yeah, because our trades, our economies dependent so much on the borderless. It's a borderless economy. You can have one factory in Malaysia, another one, another parts of the instrument may be manufactured in other countries. But today, how does this going to happen? Yeah. So you see, this is something got us want to ponder, I believe, and to find new solutions. Yeah. Right. Now we need to look for ways to support the most vulnerable in our community as well. Yeah. That's the part where we have the economics, global economics. But what? How about the local communities that are really affected by this pandemic? Yeah. I think moving forward, yes, Sarawak, in Sarawak, our chief minister in his opening address at the first Sarawak Economic Action Council meeting in Wisma Bapa Malaysia, I believe many have read, yeah, in our papers. Yeah, it's clearly said in the papers. Said in addition to policy setting, we must ensure proper and speedy execution. This is a real challenge. Yeah? Translating government agendas and government projects. Yeah? Governance is an important element to instill transparency. Human capital and health improvement programs are of central importance towards sustainable development and economic growth in any country. I would like to go back to what I have said earlier in relation to governance. Yeah, it's an important element to instill transparency. Yeah, despite the fact that all this disruption that we have, yeah, we need to adhere as well the governance. Yeah, the governance and the integrity part of the public sector will still be which has been instituted earlier, has to be adhered to and comply. Yeah, the disruption is only in the mode, if I may say, in the mode of communication. But the institution is still crafted on the premise of good governance. That has to be understood by public servants at large. Yeah? We have the beauty is we have been in this transformation for a long time to institutionalize our good governance and so forth. Yeah, that's the beauty that we have. So how do that is a challenge for the public servants themselves. How do we move forward within the new normal, but at the same time maintaining this good governance and integrity in the civil service? Yeah, human capital, as I said, become very critical. How do we motivate people? How do we ensure people will still work at home but deliver the necessary KPIs that we have set forth? Yeah. And Well, today I believe the issues we'll discuss today are also longer terms, in some sense deeper gaps in the economy. It's not just about public service, but I believe Prof. Fatimah will dwell as well in the economics of the matter. Yeah, the big gaps that's going to be created, created due to this pandemic. Yeah, you can see a lot more unemployment that has been detected by default. Yeah, and today's subject also include the GDP, economic aspirations, human resource, and healthcare, among others, and their impact. Yeah? These are critical issues that long predate COVID, but it is clear that implications of each have been made even starker by the pandemic, and associated economic crises. It also involves special attention to the outlook for the most vulnerable and those most affected by economic dislocations. As I said, I'm not going to take over from Prof. Fatimah Jis because there's so much that he's going to share with us. I'm just going to trigger you a little bit that into the conversation, because we can see the realities now is many of our communities are affected, whether the petty traders, the right from the public servants, the petty traders that we have, the businesses, the even cut across more sectors. Yeah. So, but then, as I said, to be optimistic about, well, we have to be optimistic about the way how we move forward is to look for new solutions, new answers. We cannot have the same answers to a different set of challenges. We have to create new answers and solutions to new challenges that we have now. Yeah. In that sense also, today's material is closely related to pandemic because COVID-19 could affect our economy in three main ways. Yeah? By directly affecting production, by creating supply chain and market disruption. I have said this earlier, how it affects, and by its financial impact on firms and financial markets. Yeah? The Chief Minister in June this year outlined 5 key levers for the economic sectors in order to achieve our vision of becoming an advanced state by 2030. According to him, these key levers will ensure the effectiveness of the 8 main economic sectors, from commercial agriculture to tourism, which are driven by the 6 enabler sectors such as education, human capital, digital transformation, infrastructure, transport, utility, and of course, innovation. Yeah? As I said, you need innovative solutions, you need innovative invention, and so forth. Yeah? In confronting the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, digital technologies have shown a great potential beyond improving convenience or efficiency, playing an indispensable role in sustaining social and economic activities. In conclusion, major changes in population demographics and the world of work have significant implications for the workforce, business, and nation. Not forgetting that, not because I'm a woman, thank you Ajay Ismail for saying that, not forgetting that more women are joining the workforce and joining the labor force. Yeah, it has a double take. Yeah, it can advantage for a lot of women to be able to be more productive even at home. Yeah, but at the same time they're able to care for the home. Yeah, and actually be more flexible, but can increase their productivity. Yeah, but of course, woman has to juggle. That's the other side of the coin. Woman has to juggle. But I won't want to touch just when you talk about workforce. I would like to see this also in the sense that the guys are doing the same thing. Yeah, they have to juggle. When children are not going to school, they have to make do with a compromise. Yeah, this is about the new way. This is also a new norms to a lot more young families. Yeah, you can have a maid now. Not is so simple. Yeah, you have a two-person doing a job, a full-time job. So you really have to have a new norm of managing a family and work. The new the new strategy to balancing work-life balance is become also a big challenge for a lot of us. But this is interesting era. Yeah, because it does not cut it cuts the hierarchy again. No man or woman thinks that, oh, I'm a father, I this is only my role. I'm a mother, this is only my role. But now it's not, right? So this new norm has actually created a new way of lifestyle for parents, yeah, to take care of family and work, yeah, and putting rice on the plate, yeah. All right. I supposed to end, yeah. I believe it is our mission, yeah. It is our mission to make the economy stronger, and that means keeping everyone engaged in the labor market. The newly formed Sarawak Development Bank is expected to begin operation early next year, as you're all aware. The state has also set up Petros, its own oil and gas company, and not forgetting the good news that we have recently, yeah, on the Petronas, yeah. That's a good starting point for a lot of Strokians, yeah. Okay, I can assure you that these discussions of the way this crisis affecting different plexes, different sectors, and people are central to our work in all its form, right? Now it's also time to reach out to friends and family and get connected with them however you can. Yeah, let people know how much you care about them. While life human connections is best, a phone call with a real voice. Yeah, of course now with more technologies that we have now, as I thought, maybe we have more expressive way of dealing with our emotions. Yeah, and then of course a video chat like this, right, is better than a phone call. Your active participation, this is for our participants today. Thank you very much once again. Yeah, your active participation is important indeed throughout this session. This webinar would function almost like a personal session, tutoring session with, we are able to get feedback, questions, and engagement. And all of this happens within the arbitrarily large audience. Yeah, all at once. Yeah, I have said this earlier. Yeah, this is what makes webinar unique forms of media. Webinars come with the built-in benefit to fill your interests. Yeah, and we hope that it steers you in the right direction. This is I would put the challenge back to Leadership Institute to create more of it. Yeah, maybe in maybe more topics as well, and to reach out to different levels. Yeah, it can be different segments of the public service and maybe GLCs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The teaching can go both ways. The many things that I have described earlier and that we'll discuss today are just the beginning. Yeah, I hope you all gain as much as possible through this webinar. And for the next sessions, I believe for these sessions, the next thing is please enjoy it and enjoy the conversation. Be part of this conversation, and we are going to progress with the new norm. Thank you very much, all of you, and Ajay Ismail for giving me this platform and opportunity.
Thank you, Dato'. Terima kasih, Dato'. Just for the record, again, our appreciation to 179 participants that have stayed with us for the last few minutes. In short, we're still having problems, but we have an innovative way to try and do this. We will not get to see the video of Prof from KL, but we will actually project her voice. So it's going to be a video of myself, Dato', and we will hear the audio of Prof. So let me just do some testing with Prof that so that she can hear us, and then we'll get started immediately. Prof, are you with us, Prof? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Let me just check with the participants. Can you hear that Prof's voice online? Is it faint or is it clear? Prof, would you like to say a few words? Maybe Prof, use the opportunity to introduce yourself, so we can actually test the audio from our
Thank you very much, Najib. Assalamualaikum, very good morning. I would like to apologize for the hiccup. I think when we deal with technology, there's always the 100% probability and reach there. And we do, but the thing about technology is very much flexible. If you don't have one, then you have another one. But I think we will make do. But
Let me just test. And we'll see whether we can. Well, let me just check with our participants. Can you off your audio? Can you hear it well? We'll switch your audio. Sorry, switch off your mic so that we can test whether we can hear
disrupted. Okay. All right.
It's from our side. It's okay, but I'm not getting enough signals from the rest. Yeah, hold on. We're moving it. Yeah. Can you say a few again, Prof? Sorry. Can you say just a few more words? I think some are getting you across well, but others are not.
Yep. Okay. Again, my apology for the hiccup this morning. We thought that on Tuesday we tested our system, and early today we tested it again. But when the delivery comes around, and we just have to face this difficulty.
Okay.
I think we will have to make it do. Thank you, Institute of Leadership, and thank you, Dato, for having me today, inviting me to share some of my thoughts on the existing topic. I'm Fatima. My hometown is all right. I'm born and raised in Sarike, but I left. Technically left to pursue my education. So, and I had been attached to UKM. I did some time. I spent some time in the stockbroking industry, and I go back to school again, and then I have served UM for the past 30 years. It's already towards the end of my career line, but I decided to come back to the university just a year or two just to finish up whatever work that I'm supposed to do. What else can we say? I've always been passionate about issues related to Sarawak economic development, anything to do with how the country and state transform itself from one level to another. I think we have a lot of potential, but at the end of the day, how can we let everybody together and pass a glorified days ahead of us? I'm very confident under the current leadership that we will transform the state. But of course, the challenges is there.
Okay.
Right.
Prof, if you don't mind, Prof, let me just check. Let me just check with the participants. Are you hearing us well? There are indications now people are hearing better. Is that the same across our 179 people? Okay. Good. Okay, good. We proceed, Prof. We have enough signals to say that it's much better. So if because we will not be able to do video, Prof, it has to be an audio from your side. So yeah, so I guess we will do something which is quite unusual here. We have just received your deck. We will actually do the slides from our side. And if you can just pass us the signal to which slides you want us to refer to, then the participants can follow it through the slides from our side. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll load the slides now, and then you will take us through which slides you're referring to. Then we'll do it that way. So again, thanks guys to the 179 people this morning. Thanks for your patience. We will now, I think, officially move into our dialogue model. And I guess thanks to Yang Berbahagia Dato' and Prof for introducing herself this morning. Maybe I should start, Prof, with this statement, and I think that will set the tone for all of us. I think the business case for us to change is beyond any reasonable doubt. We would not need time to debate whether there's a case to change or not. But I guess for many of us, it's always a question of what is the issue. And Yang Berbahagia Dato' in her opening remarks did talk about gender. It is in many respects an issue as a result of the pandemic. But at the same time, we have an issue of choice. Which do we address first? Is it an economic impact we look at first? Is it a social impact we look at first? Because we are part of the same fabric that's affected either economically or through the social side of it. So I think to help us make sense, make it relevant to me, make it relevant to you, make it relevant to us. So I think the topic that you presented this morning is, I would say, profound, by any standard, profound, and big statements. We have time. No worry, we have time to actually try and understand as much as we can within the time that we have this morning. So, Prof, I'll pass it to you now.
Thank you very much, Shanaji. What I plan to do is more of a sesi berandau this morning, right? Nothing serious. Let us just relax, sit back, and remain as open as possible about it. I mean, sure. I like the concept of berandau where the concept of engagement, the concept of sharing, more of the sharing of experience and thoughts and research and whatnot. Due to the technical glitch, so we are cornered into a situation where you are there looking at my slides and I'm here just talking through. Probably what we need to do is, what I need to do is just to that I don't tie myself too much to the slide so that the presentation can be done in a slightly different manner. I hope we have time for question and answers and also queries at the end of the session. But bear with me for a while, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, because of the difficulty of having to share the screen and whatnot. Now, let me start by saying that every state has a desire to achieve. Like in slide 2, at one point of time, in one of the reports, consultant report, it was being proposed that Sarawak proposed to create the growth, the GDP growth that we wanted to have. My comment on that on slide number 2 is it's okay to dream big, right? If you look at that slide, you're talking about we wanted the growth to be about 6.5% and also another scenario of 7.0%, in which by 2030, the state is expected to have about 161 billion to 162.2 billion type of GDP. If you ask me, yes, we need a GDP figure. Yes, we need to work to make sure that we achieve that figure. It will be nice to achieve that. It's okay to dream big, but I think after the COVID-19, the question of economic growth needs to be seen in a different perspective. Yes, we want the growth, but it must be a growth in which we are able to share that prosperity. So I'm not so concerned about whether we are going to have 7% or 4.5%. I think slide 2. But my concern is at what price all those GDP figures been achieved. If it is at the expense of environment, if it's widened the inequality, that's where we need to really look hard and deep into the figures that we propose. But nothing is impossible, right? If we can achieve the 7% growth, and if it means prosperity and more sharing of resources, by all means, that is the way to go. Now, I'm just going to have a quickly run through because of the difficulty of connection here. In slide 3, under the Sarawak Action Council proposal, in slide 3, you see, I quite like this slide, right? You know what the state knows what they wanted to do in terms of the focus area, in terms of all the sectors, ranging from commercial agriculture to tourism. And then the state also have a clear view about who are the enabler sectors, which include innovation, education, digital and transportation. And the state also proposed some of the levers, right, that they have. For example, I quite like the fact that the Sarawak Economic Action Council has proposed the regulatory framework, for example. This is going to be exciting. I mean, what are the type of regulatory framework that we want to have? But it's very interesting. That's the anchor of how to move forward. But again, as an economist, I'm worried about if you have the regulatory framework, are we going to structure it along a market-friendly line, or are we going to have a regulatory framework in which it will help the growth? Are we going to have a regulatory framework in which it will enable growth? Are we going to have a regulatory framework in which we allow competition in the economy, in the state? So these are big questions in slide number 3 that I wonder whether for the way forward. And also the question of levers in terms of data. Yeah? It's not only Sarawak, for the whole of Malaysia, I suppose. We are struggling with data. Our data are fragmented. It is not there. At the end of the day, we will have to have driven by the fact that all planning, all targeting purposes of program must be data driven. So I look forward for us to work in terms of our constructing our data. Make sure that the data is being constructed well, make sure it's not fragmented, and make sure it's an open source type of data system. Meaning if a junior officer in Ulu Baram wanted to know what is the program to be implemented for the community, he or she can access this data easily. Do not keep the data. Do not consider the data as a secretive input. It must be something that we can use for decision making. So again, it is not a problem unique to the state. Even for the whole of Malaysia, we do not have an open system as far as our data is concerned. I mean, for us, the researcher, that is a very, very difficult challenge of access to data. And then for implementers, especially the grassroots level there, we just need to drive planning, program, strategy based on data. So there must be effort to ensure that the data are available and shared, of course. Then I move on to slide number 4. Slide number
PwC. Weightnya color je.
Can I move on?
Yes, Prof, please.
I move on to slide number 4. Now, my concern about something that has been presented in the last Sarawak Action Council. I hope Datuk Sabara don't mind sharing it with the crowd today. I mean, I don't mean to breach the confidentiality of the whole thing, but this is just something that I'm a bit concerned. Now, transformation the economy from the last 10 years to the next 10 years, in which your service sectors, right, are lagging behind all the other sectors like manufacturing. To me, my argument for that is very simple. Once the economy transforms into a developed economy, the service sector should take the lead, right? Because the service sector will be the sector in which a lot more value added have been created. a lot more players, and a lot more domestic inputs have been used. So if you look at slide number 4, the service sectors basically have been shrinking from 43% to 24% in the last 10 years in the next 10 years. So to me, that's a bit baffling. That does baffle me. I mean, for a state to sustain the growth, the service sector should be something that drives that growth, But of course, like in most situations, the service sectors need a different regulatory framework, because you talk about a different player, you talk about a different platform, you talk about a different deliverable, you talk about different goods and whatnot. So I have yet to address this in the next Sarawak Action Council meeting. Why is that in the proposal, the service sector are lagging behind, not only in terms of what we have done in the last 10 years, but also in terms of in other sectors. Now, in slide number 5, let me just throw some of the concerns. Now, again, the good factors as an economist is that Sarawak inflation rate has been quite low, under control, I suppose. But bear in mind, inflation is not the same as cost of living. The cost of living is something that we struggle. I mean, we are facing in terms of how much more we have to pay, especially the poor household, especially in terms of having to spend more, right? In terms of as the days goes by, the last $100 that I have will not be able to sustain the expenses. So as much as our price index inflation is stable, but the cost of living is something that we are being challenged, especially in terms of price of food. So, but then again, it's typical of a structural transformation of any economy, right? Once you transform yourself into a service-oriented sectors or manufacturing sectors, cost of living is something that we really have to address in term of the impact on society. Now, again, let me move on to slide number 6. Slide number 6, which is where I think in the next 10 years, probably we shouldn't be too driven by the GDP figures. Yes, we need the GDP, but it must be of a different perspective. You talk about how can we achieve the GDP at the back of a better welfare index. So we must be able to look beyond GDP using welfare index, using social inclusiveness index, using the ability to address some of the social concerns like cost of living, the equality, the access of education, the access of all the other facilities. So probably in the next 10 years, we must be serious enough to capture all those. We need the GDP, but at least the well-being. I like to use the concept of sejahtera, sejahtera in the Bahasa Malaysia version. No English word translation could describe that. Can we move forward in the next 10 years more in terms of the kesejahteraan manusia, the welfare, the well-being of human beings, right? The happiness, the security, the safety of fellow Sarawakians, the job security, some of the problems that we are facing, environmental degradation, the rivers have been protected. Mind you, I mean, when we talk about Sarawak, I just love the rivers that we have, because I grew up in my childhood growing beside a river. I've seen the role of the river and how it sustains the livelihood. Probably we must be a bit more serious in looking at all those natural factors and natural inputs as we go forward, as we transform ourselves in the next 10 years. So again, my debate will always be look beyond GDP, look what we have, look at what we already have in terms of all our heritage, in terms of all our natural resources. So moving forward to the next slide, slide number 7. This is something that I feel so passionate about in the question of poverty in the country. That in the last 4 years, we stood a bit high in terms of incident of poverty. We are in the second highest incident of poverty in Malaysia, right? But our incident of poverty, we talk about in terms of the last transformation, it does have a slightly downward trend. But be very careful about this figure. Do not celebrate the victory first, right? We know very well that our poverty line in the last 20 years has been strongly criticized. It doesn't reflect the actual reality, right? And we have difficulty in terms of applying the poverty line that we have in the last 10 years. But in the recently announced poverty line, what they did, they have a separate poverty line for Sarawak. Now, mind you, I mean, announcing a poverty line, putting it as a published figure, it's not going to address poverty. It's not a mechanism. It's not something that can address poverty. Well, I would like to caution you on that. I mean, the poverty line that they have just announced, the initial figure given to me, even though the official figure indicates that we have managed to reduce the incidence of poverty below the double digits, but upon checking the figures again last night, I did notice that our incidence of poverty is still a double digit number, by virtue of the fact that almost 10.5% of the Sarawak population earn below 2,000. So therefore, this must be something that we can double check again with the Department of Statistics and also the EPU. We must be able to discuss that, give us the data to have a look at it again, make sure that the poverty line is being constructed correctly, taking into consideration some of the things that is very unique about Sarawak at the moment. Okay, so if we move on to slide A, this is where I would strongly suggest the idea of if the poverty line proved to be a very difficult line to construct and also to be used, is there any possibility of moving beyond the poverty line, which has been done in many countries? One option that we have is in terms of the multidimensional index that we can use. I have talked with the United Nations Development Program here in Kuala Lumpur. They are quite keen to help Sarawak to construct this index, except that I think the next move will be for us to come together to discuss about the possibility of using this new line instead of the poverty line. So we had done a small study 2 years ago using the multidimensional index. The multidimensional index differ from poverty line index. The multidimensional index really measure the deprivation of some specific facilities among the poor community. For example, we are able to measure in Ulu Kapis how deprived are the children in terms of education. You are able to measure in Ulu Bario how deprived are the children in terms of nutrition and whatnot. So it doesn't hang on to the monetary measures of what has been embedded in terms of the poverty line index. I suppose it's high time. I suppose it's high time for the state to look at alternative measures, more in terms of the deprivation. Let me share slide 8. Yes. I'm a bit concerned about the question of local democracy in terms of the multidimensional index in Sarawak. What that means is local democracy reflects whether the grassroots are receiving whatever programs that they are supposed to have. For example, we have about 200 plus poverty eradication programs in this country, right? And we have about 20 agencies that are expected to implement it. I think it's the same for Sarawak as well. But what is the difficulty here in terms of the poverty issues, especially in terms of deprivation, is it's the local leadership level that we are having difficulty in terms of their understanding about what is the program all about, in terms of their ability to help the state government to deliver, in terms of the local leaders in making sure that everybody it has been very inclusive of the way how programs have been promoted, and also how all the socio-economic programs are being delivered. So if you look at just local democracy there, our deprivation are quite high. That indicates a strong indication that we are struggling with the delivery of it at the grassroots level. This may indicate the Ketua Kampung, the Temenggung, the Ketua Rumah, and also the local leaders involved. So Leadership Institute may want to have a look at that. How do we design modules, or how do we design a training scheme to improve on local leadership, especially in terms of delivery of all the programs. The second thing that I would also want to discuss on slide number 8 is the education. You will notice that the education is very high in terms of the deprivation, right? In terms of how deprived we are in terms of education facilities. And of course, the state struggle with rundown schools, sekolah da'i and whatnot. But this is something that we have to really tackle strongly in the near future. And of course, the difficulty in terms of the size of the state, and also in terms of quality of teachers, in terms of facilities, and more so in terms of COVID, are we able to deliver all the online learning to the kids in the rural school? So that is a real challenge. So our studies does indicate that the kids are really deprived in terms of education facilities that is much needed. Now, let's move on to the next slide. Again, the question of human resource needs attention, need a little bit of focus on our side. If you look at how high is the failure rate in terms of SPM leavers in the state, 71% employers are having only just SPM qualifications. That is something that we really need to address as well. Then if you look at the next slide, you're talking about 81.5% of employees doesn't have the high-level education, high-level training that is much needed to transform the economy, right? Only 18.5% of the human resources are trained in terms of highly skilled and also managerial job. Okay, so I'm just going to proceed on, and probably I can look at some of the Q&A section later on. Now, again, in terms of the human resource planning in Sarawak, what's the problem in slide 10 is we are fairly good in terms of utilizing all the human resource development fund in terms of our training. But if we measure it, as what you have seen on slide 10, if you measure in terms of investment per employee, Sarawak is just in the middle of the whole range. We didn't do that bad, we didn't do that good either, but I think we must be able to focus as well on how much are we going to invest in terms of training for the employees. But again, the last slide on the last graphic on page 10, you look at percentage of employees trained. This is a measure of how many employees are trained in 2018. We are the last 3 of the whole of the stack, right? We didn't do that well as compared to the labor utilization as well as the training investment that we did. So again, this is something that the private sectors, I believe, will have to pick up in terms of giving trainings for the employees. And that is why later on in my presentation, probably in the post-COVID era, the question of public and private sector partnership will remain one strategic areas in which we need good discussion, and we need good inputs in terms of how to go forward and push forward in terms of the public and private partnership. So on slide 11, and this is my concern on manufacturing sectors. If you go for a manufacturing-based type of economic growth, right? The question is how much of that activities in the manufacturing sectors are translated into value added that you can create for the domestic economy. Meaning to say, if I invest $1 in ringgit in the investment, in past studies does indicate that out of that $1, only a very minimal level will be translated into domestic inputs. That is in terms of wages, that in terms of training, and then that in terms of salaries. The rest are being transported back to the country of origin where the investment has been sourced. So again, can this be reversed in the next 10 years? You know, I mean, if you look at slide number 11, you talk about iron and steel. Out of 1 ringgit when invested, only 9 cents will be left behind for wages and salaries. 0.9 cents will be brought back as funds and also capital that will be retracted back outside the country. So we must be a bit careful in terms of the type of investment, also in terms of sectors that we need to develop. It must be a sector that creates a job, offer the good remuneration in terms of wages, in terms of salary and whatnot. In the past industrialization process that we have, we didn't do that well in that sense. But of course, it really depends on what sectors are you talking about. So if you look at the scale of 10 there, businesses to business. This is why an economy to transform the economy, we are quite in favor of developing the services sector because the value added for the domestic economy is quite high. You look at number 10, out of $1 invested, almost 40% will be reinvested back into the economy in terms of wages, salary, and all the other enumeration. So again, it's like 12. The reason why the manufacturing sector didn't hit us that high value is quite simple. One is the structure of our SMEs, small and medium scale industries, are very fragmented. That's one. Two, the relationship between the big SME players and the small SME players are quite remote. Meaning to say, if you look at the figure on slide 12, the small SME players will depend heavily on the big SME players. But the big SME players, investors, doesn't depend on the small players. So that is what I mean by we are very fragmented in terms of the industry that we have created in this country. So that is why too, the investment that come into the country are not creating the type of job and not offering the type of wages that we are seeing because the very weak link between the bigger players and the smaller players. So how do we design the manufacturing system in which the big players are able to help the small players, small SMEs in terms of export market, in terms of creating the R&D and whatnot. So the linkages, the forward and backward linkages, especially among the big players, are just not there. So what type of regulatory framework can we set up to make sure that the small players out there are able to benefit significantly from the existence of the manufacturing sector? So in sum, the first part of my presentation, yes, the economy is going to transform itself from the traditional sectors to the services and manufacturing sectors, but there are challenges ahead in terms of all the risks and also in terms of the globalization process that we are facing. Nonetheless, we talk about the climate change, the pandemic, right? The bottom 40, the global economic outlook, the labor force, the migration, right? The ability to create jobs and whatnot. So as we transform in the next 10 years, those are some of the challenges. But the good thing is the challenges are policy sensitive. So how do we design this policy in such a way that we are able to absorb the shock? Now, I do a little bit of slight adjustment to slide number 14. I will come back to slide number 14 a little bit later. And if we move, the next presentation that I have will be on the COVID-19 itself. Now, of course, COVID-19 came in at the time when we are less ready. COVID-19 came as a risk that faced almost every country in the world, and it really caught us with the pants down almost in that situation. But to me, let me just say upfront, the way I look at it as an economist, as much as COVID-19 is a health issue, to me as an economist, I would just be looking at how can we turn this crisis into something, how can we turn in this crisis into a positive thing in the future? In another word, I'm saying, how can we use this crisis to change, to reform, to revitalize, and also to promote changes in the economy? And on hindsight, I will wish to say that we shouldn't let this crisis, a good crisis like this, not doing anything. That is the thinking behind many of my work coming my way in the next 2 or 3 years. This crisis must not be missed in terms of changing things that we need to do. Right. On whatever data that we have, look at countries like Taiwan, Iceland, South Korea, and Germany. These are the countries that performed so well in the last 4 months of the response to the crisis. What are the things they have in common? Very simple: governance and leadership. That's one thing. Countries like Iceland harp on the fact that the public and private sectors and partnership is something that they do and they use in addressing the pandemic. Countries like Germany, why do they perform much better than Europe and also US? To me, it's just leadership in terms of Angela Merkel. Okay, Datuk Sabara is right. That's the element of woman leadership plays a role. But I think to be much on a more serious note, I think Germany managed this crisis in a much more manageable manner because of driven by science and driven by data, right? Countries like Taiwan and South Korea, they did very well, but they learn from past experience. That's one thing. 2, they harp on the application of better technology, better innovation in terms of how to handle the pandemic by using innovative technology, right? So the rest of how the country perform have been listed on slide 15. I think that is self-explanatory. But again, let me move on slide 16. Again, maybe Prof. Awang has discussed this with the rest of the team. To me, because it's a health issues, it's quite tough for an economist like me to interpret. But I'm not too politically concerned about the rate of infection. And God willing, we can pull it down. We can lower it down and put it to the level that we can manage. But I'm more concerned about our capacity utilization in terms of whether we have a strong health system to support in case we get into the second wave, the third wave, or whatever the difficulty that we have. But the good feeling that I have when I read and when I listen to debate and also looking at the data is that I think whatever problem that we solve by addressing, whatever problem that we solve in addressing COVID, it will provide a solution for all the other health problems that we have. And I have the feeling that solving COVID will help to solve all the other health-related issues because it's about attitude, because it's about mindset change, because it's about a new way of living. You're talking about taking care of yourself, taking care of your community, taking care of your family, taking care of your health and your schools and whatnot. Looking at the literature and reading all those things, as much as COVID has damaged the global economy, when I look at how to solve it, the usual health-related way to solve it was social distancing, by mask, by hand sanitizer, the hygiene and whatnot. That's not too bad. I mean, if we can calculate that in terms of the system, I am very optimistic the recovery in terms of those way of looking at things, right? Will be much more faster as what we have, as compared to the pessimism that we had much earlier. In other words, put in simple terms, if it means to change our attitude to move forward, and attitudinal change is something difficult, but it's not that costly, then we are seeing a good recovery plan ahead of us. Now, of course, for us in slide number 17, for Sarawak, I think we have been hit hard in terms of our tourism sectors, because these are the states in which we depend heavily on tourism. But I like the things that why Binaisi Sukri is doing in terms of engagement, in terms of promoting domestic tourism, in terms of putting up new products, in terms of being very visible about what can be explored in Sarawak as far as the tourism is concerned. We may take time for recovery, but I think I'm very optimistic that the domestic tourism will be put in place, and it's just a matter of time when the international tourists will come. Because if we talk about long-haul flights and also long-distance flights, the engineering in the constructing of flights, of all those systems in any airplane, has already improved so significantly. Boeing has already come up with ways in which the air inside the plane can be sanitized almost to 99%. Therefore, the science and the discovery of what has been done elsewhere will help us to recover. So again, I see the sense of recovery in the next 6 months, right? But we must be quite ready in terms of governance, in terms of policies, in terms of enabling mechanism, in how do we speed up this recovery. So again, quickly moving on, slide number 18. Slide number 18, people have been asking me again on terms of our prospect for recovery. So if you look at the recovery in terms of V-shape, U-shape, and also L-shape. Now, my reaction to this is that the V-shape and the U-shape are very much financial type of recovery scenario. If it's a financial recovery scenario, then a country like Malaysia and also a state like Sarawak are able to be in it, because this is not the only time. This is not the first time we have financial crisis. But unfortunately, this is not a financial crisis. This is a health crisis. Now, if you look at the L scenario, it is going to be long, protected, extended. Then that is very worrying. If you look at the L scenario, it will take a longer time. But again, if I look at all the data, I'm for D and U scenarios, in which there are many reasons for that, right? Not so much of the L scenarios. The V and the U scenarios in which we can recover in a matter of time are because of the global factors as well. One, the liquidity in the global market is huge. That's one. Right? Investment are coming in on condition that we have put our house in order in terms of our recovery phase. The global interest rate is low in terms of the borrowing cost that we're going to face. And most of the government in the whole world, as part of the stimulus package, are likely to spend in terms of to recover. So therefore, I would really look at the fact that plus the fact that the oil price is really low. Of course, for the state of Sarawak, low oil prices will mean a lower revenue. But we have to look into a much more macro side of it. The recovery will be less costly if we have a low oil prices and a low interest rate. So my point is, as far as slide 18 is concerned, recovery will be helped by the fact that the global liquidity is high, right? So money is cheap. Everybody is spending as far as the government is concerned. Now, slide number 19, concern that I have in terms of our own food securities and our own needs. Our agriculture sectors, of course, I'm a big fan of agriculture. And in fact, in my last lecture in October, I said that if the state can really put up a good model for agriculture, not so for the purpose of our self-sufficiency and also for the global market, I think we are on our way to be a global player in all the agriculture products. So be mindful, as much as we want to recover, we are also quite vulnerable in terms of some of our basic needs. Like our rice, we have to import what 30%, right? Our beef, we have to import 7%. So how do we respond to this? Response will be very clear. Can we start up our own production? Now, the good thing about COVID, it is not equivalent to First World War and Second World War. Look at the history of First World War, Second World War, all the infrastructure has been destroyed. But for COVID, the infrastructure is still intact. The roads are still there, the ports are still there, the runway are still there. It is just a matter of making sure that the pandemic is under control. So there is no reason why the economy should not rebound back, but of course it must be rebounded with certain conditions. Now, again, slide number 18 also expressed my concern in terms of the food shortages, the disruption in terms of local production, and how all disruption into the imports and also the health impact. Again, it boils down to the fact that during the recovery period, we are quite likely to see a high cost of living for most of us, right? So when you talk about cost of living, then you talk about how is it going to affect those in the B40 group, right? How is it going to affect those who are having big family? How is this going to affect whatever we can bring home in terms of our saving and in terms of our income? So probably whatever strategies and programs that we need for the community to be delivered to the community will have to factor in the cost of living in terms of how to address some of their needs, right? Bear in mind, the poverty line that we use all along did not capture the cost of living. That is my biggest critique about why we should have a relook at our poverty line, because it didn't incorporate the impact of cost of living and how much I can bring home to support my family, okay? And again, in terms of slide 21, bear with me a little bit, yeah? Slide 21, you're talking about the disruption in terms of the supply chain, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of food, in terms of health. On the other side, there are rooms for us to respond to each and every one of that. Because COVID is about making sure we make use of the opportunity to respond very well. So there are options out there in terms of how to address the manufacturing sector, in terms of the disruption, in terms of supply chain. But of course, I sympathize with Sarawak, because part of our ability to recover and also to respond will be because of our poor infrastructure, right, to all over the state. For Semenanjung, in which the infrastructures are well intact in terms of road, in terms of rail transportation, in terms of the north-south highways, east-west highways, they are expected to sort of recover well as compared to states like Sabah and Sarawak, who doesn't have the infrastructure as well. So probably we've been knocked down by that, by the fact that the infrastructures are poor and recovery can be affected as much. Now, moving on to slide number 22, the government has been spending. So the response toward COVID has been very simple. I don't think the private sector will get into the decision to invest as yet, because one is the risk factor involved, and two, almost all of them have been knocked out because of the COVID, because of the mobility control order and whatnot. So the world economy, and Sarawak with no exception, hinges heavily on the role of government, right? Hinges heavily on the role of government. No government in anywhere in the world will ignore this. Now, of course, there is a debate out there, what is the big size, what is the appropriate size of government, how much the government should spend. I think even COVID, it shouldn't be that debate. The debate is the government will have to play a strategic role to reform and also to recover. But the government must realize that they have three strategic roles. That one is to enhance the market, to create the market for recovery. Second is to be somebody as a last resort, because the private sectors are down, and it's left to the government to spend, to revitalize, and also to restart the economy. And government in the recovery period will have to be at the cornerstone of investors. Therefore, I would like to debate in this sense that the recovery phase will be full of government role in making sure that the economy can really trigger itself into the next level of revitalization and also reform. So moving on to slide number 31, then what are the guiding principles in which we should respond? There are quite a number of things. I'm very sure Institute are aware of that, in terms of coordination, in terms of collaboration, communication channel, and of course, don't forget to celebrate any good small success that we have achieved. But we must be able to acknowledge the fact that any success, any job that is well done must be recognized. So as much as I look at the role of the government in terms of recovery, but there are some about 7 fundamental principles that can govern that intervention in terms of our recovery. Now, the last few slides is going to sort of reflect on my own experience in terms of community engagement. At the end of the day, recovery is about the livelihood of the people down there. At the end of the day, recovery is about putting back jobs to the rakyat. Okay? And at the end of the day, it's about delivering all the programs in a very effective and in a very targeted way. In a way, we are lucky because we have the technology, we have the digital technology that we have, or I think the states are capable of putting up some good platform and also some good intervention, some good infrastructures in terms of the digital economy. In a way, Sarawak is lucky in the sense that before COVID struck us, the idea of what digital economy was being announced much well ahead, right? You already have the concept, but now how do we get into the soft infrastructure coming and making sure that the technology will be able to help us to deliver some of the programs and recovery. Now, I did a lot of engagement programs in the last years of my service in UM, because I wanted to move away from theory. I wanted to move away from the classroom. I just want to know that what works out there and what doesn't work. In my own experience, it's about communication. So in slide 24, if technology can help us in terms of communication, there's a lot of platform out there we can use. And of course, the beauty of technology, apart from the fact that it fails us once and twice this morning, we can recover in some other ways. Therefore, you talk about using technology to give us the proper support. One thing good is that now you talk about technology apps and whatever you have out there, it can be composed into just one single application, right? The community can use it, the community can have access to it. I think people who have data plan in Sarawak is quite huge, but of course the infrastructure in terms of connection, in terms of communication tower needs to be built in, and of course, I am particularly worried about how will the folks in the rural areas get connected. So again, slide 25, I managed to look at some of the good applications, right? I mean, I'm not proposing that we use that application. It is just the concept behind it. If we look at how UNICEF designed the application, when they designed the application, as to what is this on slide 25, what the emphasis on is the transmission is led by the community, meaning to say the community must have access to whatever application and to whatever digital device that they are having, right? The focus is not so much on other things, but more in terms of how adaptive are the technology. But bear in mind too, be very sensitive about the fact that in my own study and also in my own community engagement, you look at gender, as what Datuk Sabaya said, men and women use apps differently for a different purpose, for a different objective, for a different way, right? In the study, in my study in terms of building a smart community, the woman will tend to use apps more in terms of the marketing purposes of what they wanted to assess, while the men will want to use it more in terms of the networking. So in designing any application to help the community out there, be mindful of the fact that there are other local factors, there are other situational factors that we have to take. Even to the level of gender does play a role in the acceptance of each technology and also engagement style that we have. So slide number 26 is just, I'm sharing the link in how UNICEF has built, especially in building a very good application for the children, for the young, in understanding COVID-19 and how the whole system has been developed. Okay, moving on slide 29. This is again the question of risk communication in how agencies like UNICEF have built it. I will have to mention the fact that risk communication is something that we don't talk too much about. Right? We do not know what it is. We do not know what to do. We do not know what is it all about. What is the concept? What is the design? And very much the problem, as far as my own engagement is concerned with the community, is that I will assume that they understand what I'm talking about. But when you talk about risk communication, a different type of risk will need to be executed, communicated in a different way. As simple as that. So any effort to really put up any form of digital economy out there, we will really have to look at the risk structure or the type of risk they are talking about, right? At the moment, I'm helping a community out there to really sort of come up with apps to address child abuse and also to address some of the gruesome family level problems in the rural areas. What we wanted to do is for the community to own the technology so that any problem faced by the children, be in terms of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, have been able to be communicated directly to the authorities in charge. So in my own work, I found out that the type of risk methods and how we communicate starts to impact in terms of our effectiveness. So moving on, I have quite a few more slides there. Slide number 28, if you do have time, these are just some of the applications, some of technology-enabled programs in other parts of the world. And what I noticed very much about the type of things, how they use the technology communication and also apps in the part of the world is that we take time to invest in information. That's one. That's the whole idea of communicating the risk. Take time to invest in some information. And of course, the number two is in addressing COVID, in making sure that the community understands what we are doing, and also in terms of addressing the problem. the challenge is to make sure that getting the facts right? Because at the end of the day, I noticed that addressing COVID at the most fundamental level, keeping the hygiene, wearing masks, sanitizing, keeping the distance, these are just simple things that we can do. But how do we communicate it in a very simple way, in a way they understand, so that these habits have been adopted, and in the long run, we don't have to spend so much in addressing this COVID. Once we address it into habit, to attitude change, we will be over the curve. We'll be ahead of the curve, right? And of course, as far as Sarawak is concerned, the question of preventive healthcare will be much more pertinent in the near future. We are not talking about cure here. We are talking about preventive healthcare. So preventive healthcare means a lot more engagement, a lot more of communication, a lot more information need to be transferred to the community. So at the end of the day, what matters, as what I have put out on slide 29, what matters most as far as the technology is concerned are the one that I have put out on slide 29. We have to design based on the user. It must be sustainable. It must be reused and improved. You must understand the ecosystem. It must be data-driven. Again, as what I had mentioned earlier on, any planning, any strategies must be based on data. Do we have a central bank in terms of data, in looking at all those things? Of course, it's designed for scale. You're talking about the masses, and it must be open source. The more open it is, the more affordable for the community, the more easily for them to access. And of course, we have to be careful about the privacy as well. I agree with that. Yeah, but open source means more sharing in terms of whatever we want to put across to the community, especially in addressing COVID. Of course, be collaborative. We have partners. The private sectors are there to be our potential partners. The university are there, the schools are there, the mosques are there, the temple are there, the church are there. So if we can really network in terms of that sense, right? This is my own experience in terms of doing community engagement, collaboration and networking is something that we need to do. Of course, the final proposal, right? Slide number 30, slide number 30, number 30, yeah. Programs have to be better targeted. That is our challenge. I do share your concern. I do share your difficulty. In my own engagement work, I have that difficulty as well, because if I wanted to engage group A, then group B will be out of the line. So therefore, my view about a good effective program, be it a socioeconomic program, be it a program for COVID and whatnot, it must be as inclusive as possible. And there must be a sense of update as we go through. There must be a strong support from all levels of governance and especially the grassroots. And then there must be shifts toward targeting and customization, right? The data that we have, it must be tools to target the programs, right? It must not be a tools to ration out the community. It must be a tools to target the program for proper targeting. I know you guys are implementers. It's very hard. It's very difficult. But my own experience, engagement, this is where cross agencies collaboration is very important, especially in terms of effectiveness of implementation. I don't think we can afford to work in silos anymore. You know, as what we have seen in the last few years. Okay. Participatory approach is important. Institutional strengthening, also monitoring and evaluation. I think monitoring and evaluation, part of my engagement program will be a committee over here. We design and construct our own monitoring and evaluation index to make sure that the programs that we deliver based on our programs are being effectively delivered to the target group. I know it sounds simple, but I think these are all the challenges that we have. So last but not least, I put final slides of Laksa Sarawak there. And not that I miss, of course, I miss it so much, a good Laksa Sarawak. for lunch or whatever. We hardly have any good one around here in Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya. Well, the reason why I put that Laksa Sarawak is very simple. Anybody who wanted to enjoy Laksa Sarawak, it must be of a perfect balance. It must be the correct spices. It must have the ingredients. It must be spicy. It must be tangy. It blends in well. And of course, it must be hot too. So if we can put up strategies and plans in which it resembles what is it like to enjoy a good Laksa Sarawak, in which everything is well balanced, that is my reflection on how I want to see works ahead of us. You know, can we have the balance? Can we have the correct balance to transform the economy into one that we have dreamed of in the next 30 years? And of course, nothing beat the idea of having a nice Laksa Sarawak. But a nice Laksa Sarawak comes from a good chef who can balance all the tests. And then nothing can beat the enjoyment of having a good Laksa Sarawak that we can enjoy very much. So that's my analogy of what we can do as far as the transformation is concerned. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. I must say it has been a profound few minutes listening to the deep thoughts, provoking thoughts that you have put forth on the table. Now, before I proceed with I have a lot of questions in my head, Prof. I'm looking towards the participants that we have. About 176 people are still tuned in, and I think questions are beginning to come in. But maybe let me just kick off and set this rundown going. And one of the things that come across very clearly, Prof, is, in other words, we are already in a state before the pandemic where perhaps the word I will use as a non-economist is the global economy is sluggish. But by the time we arrived, we were in the early days of the pandemic. The pandemic has set in and has compounded the effect of the global economy. Now, there's always a debate of choice. Now, I think for us in the state, there's always a debate of choice, which is simply, what do we do first? In other words, if you can help us, perhaps in the next few minutes, just put it together for us. What must we do now and here? What must we do? What is it in the immediate term? What is it in the long term? Because there could be many things that could be a conflict. Let me give an example. My conversation on the street is very simple. There is the economic impact of unemployment. That affects, that's the socio impact of it. But there's also the fact that we cannot talk about employment or reskilling if there is no investment that's going to be done, which we just explained a few minutes ago. So if we were in a state of creating the strategy, the policies now, what should we do here and now, immediate and in the long term?
Okay. Is there anything else? Or?
We'll go along, Prof. We'll go along.
Okay, Tanaji. To me, let's be practical about it. Biggest thing is for us to look at job creation, job retention, job creation, job retention. Right? People need to earn. People need to have jobs. People need to earn the living, to sustain the economy, to feed the family, to you know. Whatever it takes for us, for the jobs to be created. Now, this is where, let's be practical about it. The economy is a very dynamic system, if you talk about the economy as a dynamic system, in any local economy, like say in my area in Sarike, right? I can sense that some of my sisters and my nieces and nephews who have been operating small business. Let's be real about it, okay?
Yeah.
Let's be real about it. And they are just operating backyard type of business. food-based business, catering food business, horticulture business, right? A little bit of services, a little bit of restaurants and whatnot. This is where recovery in the next 2 or 3 months, we'll have to look at the dynamics of the local economy. What works at the local level? Let's say if a small operator in Sarike were able to create the job of 2 or 3 employment for the young, for the kids. Thing that we are looking for. Now the question is, how do we scale it up?
Yeah.
Right? The scaling it up is something that can be done, right? In term of opening up, or in term of market, scaling up in term of enterprises. But the most important thing is how can we keep up that job? I'm proud of the fact that some of my family members who operate in Sarike, they still end up inspiring the workers. They keep them, right? They have the job, right? Regardless of the fact that they are not earning so much, but at least they are earning. Now, I don't want to be so fancy about it. Can this type of small model here, small type of players here be replicated across the board? Right? Probably this is more of what a local agency should be looking for. Right? The rest of how to scale it up is a market issue. Right? I can see that this can proceed on, provided we are not going to have a second lockdown. We are recovering, there is mobility, of course it's slightly higher, but people are still purchasing in terms of jobs and in terms of service, in terms of goods that they want. So at the local level, yes, the economy still function as it used to be, because we need to survive on the basics anyway, right? But of course, again, the question of how do we contain the pandemic, how do we make sure that all the preventive things are put in place. So if you ask me, the next level, apart from jobs, the next level is for the pandemic to be, the community needs to be, the community to make aware. But in the long run, this is where in the long run, Baji, you are right. There's a lot of sluggishness in the global economy pre-COVID. COVID has made it worse. But there is a lot of relocation too because of the geopolitical conflict. Because of the tension between US and China, relocation come out of Japan, relocation come out of Taiwan, relocation come out of Vietnam even. All the literature is saying a lot of this relocation are to Vietnam. I can understand that because it is just a matter of proximity to Japan, to Taiwan, and also to China, right? But we must also understand some of the relocation are being focused to a country like Indonesia. Right? If you look at slides, I think I made it like slide number 14 earlier on. You look at the fact that active relocation from the main investors like Taiwan, Japan, and also the US has been done. As far as this region is concerned, Indonesia is receiving the first wave of it. But this is where the challenge comes up. I don't think our attempt to attract those investors will be based on the old ways of doing things. I don't think we are seeing the incentive that we give to the investors in terms of tax cut and tax relief and whatnot. It is just there for almost every country to offer. Therefore, that type of incentive is not going to affect much. So I believe in the long run, the fact that we can manage this COVID, the strong role of the government, the fact that we can turn this crisis into a good strategy to attract all those investors, that is going to be something that will come our way. inshallah, with good planning and whatnot. But we just have to market ourselves differently. Gone are the days when we market ourselves based on tech belief. I don't think the players out there are going to see it. It's more of the ecosystem, it's more of the governance, it's more of our response. And of course, our difficulty in Sarawak is because of our infrastructure, right? Lacking in terms of infrastructure or connectivity. But why can't we use factors like nature? Why can't we use the factor like culture? Why can't we use the factor like we used to have the best theater in town to attract all the investment? Because things are changing. I don't think the world is looking at the old factors anymore. There's something new that we managed to project to the whole world. And probably it's not an economic factor. It's not an economic incentive anymore. At the end of the day, it's about the people, the culture, the nature that the state of the country can have. So if we can put that as an incentive. Of course, if you look at how Indonesia attract it, and Indonesia attract a lot of investment in the pre-COVID and now. Indonesia didn't attract it all over Indonesia. It's just the Western Java, in which you talk about a very strong governance by the governor of Western Java, in which he used technology. He's the first one to set up a smart community approach in Bandung. And he's the first one to use high tech in connecting and been very transparent about the way he governed that region.
Correct.
So investment are blocking in because of those XX factors as compared to the conventional factors. And then again, just to sum up, what are the dynamics of local economy in creating jobs? We must create that job. And the other thing is that a service-oriented economy are quite likely to create far better jobs than any other sector.
Haji Ismail?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Can I just say a few things, because I believe I also would like to hear participation from the audience, because this is a part of public service, who I believe some, as far as Baram and all those things, I saw the participants, and our civil servants. I'm happy that they stay on. They stay on. Now I think it's about 172. Still here. Prof, it must be, to me, I thought that I will leave because I have another engagement, but honestly, I'm happy to stay on because I know that you will give tons of evidence. The most thing that I like most about you is about giving a lot of statistics, evidence, and also data that where we are, compared to the rest of the world, because these are things to me, other than the gist itself, the methods of sharing that Prof has given us insights with evidence is very good for our public servants to begin with. And I must say that, except the last proposal, Prof, I may add, that you put it up because I believe it was based on your projects, but looking at the scenario in Sarawak itself, now we are looking at the Gini coefficient where when you mention about the poverty index, because we when we look at the profiles in Sarawak, for that matter, the poverty line, or the incidence of poverty will occur both at the rural as well as the urban centers because of urban migration. So I believe that slides also is a good framework to work on both the incidence for those development in the urban as well as the rural, because the realities that when you dissect where we are and what are our gaps, you rightly said, it is so fragmented. We don't have a solid ecosystem that can support. Again, like you said, rightly said, the government role becomes very critical in this development effort, to address the gaps and the necessary ecosystem to support, whether those is as the SMEs, those in the other sectors as well, those potential sectors. Without having that necessary government intervention, we may not be where we aspire to be. I do not want to elaborate there because there's a lot of things that you have said that is full on the plate. I must say that the state government will definitely work in progress now, deliberating on it, and I hope the participation of those today will be able to bring home what you have been talking about. Ajim smile. I'm not wrapping it up, but I believe you have to open it to our audience.
Yes, I understand that we have to manage this opening up. Otherwise, it becomes it becomes it becomes very difficult to manage. So we have actually will invite someone to actually has a request to speak. So we will invite the person. Is it Kasmawati? Is it Kasmawati Muhammad online? She has requested for audio. Kasma, we have opened. Yeah, just press your mic. We've opened the line for you, Kasma. Kasmawati Muhammad. Yeah, we have opened the line. So just click on your mic and then please let us hear your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, or clarification.
Are we getting a signal?
Yes, we are taking a request. There are requests to speak, so we will coordinate the turn. So we have our first request.
Can we move on and come back to her?
Okay. Okay. He has decided to ask her the question. Yeah. So I think let me pick up the question from. Okay, so let me pick up a question here. There is this question, Prof, that we're seeing now that talks about the idea of humanizing the economy, and I think the example of Sarawak Laksa is an example of humanizing the economy. And I think the humanization of the economy, I think, comes from the very approach that you have proposed, which is very much let's go beyond GDP, but to begin to talk about the inclusion, because the pandemic has actually opened up has revealed data that begins to show that there are serious groups of people badly affected by that. So if we were to talk about inclusion, and now what would be one of the first few steps that we need to take into consideration, Prof, when we talk about making our plans go beyond GDP to make it a bit more inclusive?
Okay. I did mention GDP measures that I would consider something that we can use, but going beyond it is something that we need to think about. That is why, in fact, United Nations Development Program have alerted me that Sarawak wants to embark on this small project in which we can partner with your UNDP, with the state government, just to have on a pilot level type of collecting socioeconomic profile beyond GDP. That's humanizing, growth and humanizing economic change and economic reward. I think I will sort of contact Dato again about this. Probably if we can launch that small work, right, on a specific site, and that specific site and that specific study will enable us to sort of scale it up and probably put up for the whole Sarawak. That is a very good offer by United Nations Development Bank, United Nations Development Program, actually quite willing to do it for Sarawak under that decision. Now, I like to say the concept of inclusiveness in any form of change, in any form of transformation, right? That is why in fact, we are quite lucky. If you move beyond GDP centric, do we have an alternative? Yes, we have the alternative.
Yeah.
One alternative that we have is moving toward more of a multidimensional index type of measures, right? Basically, what multidimensional index measures, nothing to do with GDP, is a measure of how severe, the severity of deprivation of any poor household. Right? If you talk about a poor household in Ulu Baram or Ulu Blaga, how deprived are they in terms of nutrition? How deprived are they in terms of education? And how deprived are they in terms of housing and all the others? So that gives us a sense of relief when you talk about severity and deprivation, especially in terms of the basic needs of all the programs that we put across in place. So, for me, if you talk about humanizing growth, it must be our ability to provide that. Just by the basic needs, especially education. I am a strong believer in education. You know, if you put, it doesn't matter how much it doesn't matter, right? If we have to spend so much on education, be it, because this is a long-term road path, the destination to that. So we get our education right together with health, together with all the other needs of the program. This is what I call a very sustainable society in that sense. But unfortunately, education is something that we need to really, really work hard, put ourselves together. And I think if we are going to put education as our agenda, education shouldn't be the things that only education department. It must be a multi-agency type of responsibility. I mean, why can't the district officer care about the fact that poor families are having dropouts because of not able to go to school? Why can't it be the responsibility of a person in agriculture department? Why can't it be? Because we are working in silos, therefore education is left to the education department. So can we have, in which we have a cross-cutting type of agency, every agency can sort of, especially in terms of education. Can we infuse that model? Because of the fact that education is so important in the way we move forward.
Agree. I like the approach you put forward, Prof. But I can't help it. I can't help it. Perhaps my colleagues on the line too. To a certain extent, the humanization of the economy, to a certain extent, and if I look back at the statement that you made earlier, where you talk about the government, I think has to take on the lead in addressing a lot of the things, either now or post-COVID. Now, they have to. There is this laksa balance that they have to do, in the sense of, on one hand, we don't want to create a community that's almost becoming, in the process of humanizing, we don't want to reach a stage, perhaps a welfare state. At the same time, the government has to manage this role of injecting or providing that stimulus that will inject the economy, the rebirth of the economy, as I call it. Now, the balance of these two is a tricky act, and then, but I keep coming back to the point. Now, how do we go out and send this message? You talk about community engagement just now, and it dawned on me then, if there is this competing priorities that we have to manage, one humanize, one play the role as helping the investors. How do you go about sending this message to the community? Because the expectation now against the strata and the society is different. So how do we manage the communication or that engagement, really?
Right. Thank you for the question. Very relevant, sir. Let's put our thoughts. What saying in say Ulu Kapi, Ulu Song, Ulu Lawas. Let's put our thoughts there. You know.
Yeah.
difficulty. That's why I would appeal to all of us, start having a centralized and a robust data.
Yeah.
Right? Without any of this, without a centralized data, without a really specialized and customized data, we are not going to sort of target it right. So I hope the institute will sort of be able to come up with a simple modules on managing of data, type of data, collection of data. So whatever steps that we come forward must be data driven. That is what I did when I have all my community engagement with the people over here. I mean, I would like to ask for apology. I didn't have that much opportunity to be one or two in Sarawak. I hope I have that in the near future, God willing. Be data driven in terms of the programs that we are looking at. But mind you, data can be a double sword type of our instrument.
Correct.
If we keep it close to the fact that data must be for targeting, then we are on target. But data must not be used for rationing. That is our difficulty. We use the data for rationing, meaning to say you are in, I'm out, regardless of our needs. Right? And I'm a strong supporter of, if the community deserves it, I understand your argument of how can we sustain if it's going to be a welfare. We are not going to go into that in terms of 100% of it. Therefore the intervention, I am very sure the intervention programs that we have come in all sorts of forms. First, it can be in terms of income enhancement. Second, it can be in terms of education. Third, it can be in terms of exit strategy. And fourth, of course, in terms of self-help and also self-reliance. And of course, we have all the other mechanisms. What is the role of the community in making sure that we move forward together? Right? What are the instruments out there in which we can use? Market instruments, in which, how can we move beyond welfare when we put in place the market instrument? Right? But of course, it sounds easy and simple. But somebody has to do it. We have to move it beyond the concept. Right? And that is where the creativity needs to come in. And of course, this type of work will be made easier because you can partner. You have to choose your partner. The private sectors are there to create the partnership, right? And that is what we call public-private sector strategic partnership. The state institutions are there, the church, the mosque, the temple, and almost everything, right? The NGOs are there, the universities are there. The fundamental of this lies in the transfer of knowledge to the community, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of let's move toward smart community. Smart community means we have the infrastructure, we are proud of the fact that we move on, right, to sustain the economy, to build the economy. We are part of the community in which we do have an exit strategy. We're not going to depend on welfare, right? We are not going to hang on to handouts. I don't believe in that either, right? But there are certain instruments out there, especially the market instrument and partnerships that we can propose. I took about 2 years to work with my community. I mean, if I'm going to tell you the story, there was time when I've been chased out. Pakai penyapu ba? Out you go. What do you know? Go back to university and teach. I said, no. Let's share what we have. And it takes time. It takes time. Those are my experience. A sense of rejection is there, but if you need to handheld them at one point of time, by all means, handheld them. But look for strategic things, education of the children. We shouldn't drop along the way, right? That is my own experience in handling that. in all my community engagement, I make sure the kids are back to school at whatever cost that I have to make in putting them. So by then, the kids are able to explain to their parents, look,
Correct.
we have to work, cut off the welfare. The welfare are for somebody else, not us. So there are certain mechanisms out there, and then I'll be glad to share with you if ever I fly back to Sarawak to sort of put it in pictures and to put in jokes and what the engagement is all about.
We take you on that one, Prof. I think
Alright.
you provoke me. We're still waiting for the first person to actually put up his hand or her hand to say they want to speak online, but we have enough questions to reflect, and I want to take on two more perspective, Prof. I think part of the role of this webinar is to actually open up. And so that we achieve a level of clarity and mencapai taraf kesedaran. I think that's important. Two things that the more I listen to you, Prof, the more I'm beginning to think about you when you talk about education. Education to me is such an investment that the state can make. And I'm beginning to move towards what I call, rather than community engagement, I'm beginning to feel that it is about equitable engagement. We should have the right, it's about assessing the different strata of the society and having that level of communication, which is different. Now, what would you say? The message that we need to send out to strata should be inclusive, in the sense that we have graduates coming out of our universities, albeit there are no final year exams and no exams at certain levels of the education levels, but people are coming out of education institutions. And it's a very basic that we talk about jobs. Now, what would that message be? And there are also groups that are less affected. I mean, I think one of the pieces of work that you champion a lot is poverty. I'm thinking about urban poverty at the moment. There's going to be high unemployment. It's already reported in some cases, not necessarily official. About 60,000 people probably are already, being laid off, or could be more, depending on where you read or where you look for your data. Now, all this strata of society demand, perhaps in my view, different level of engagement. And what do you suggest? How do we go about? I'm looking at government agencies. How do we play a role here in terms of sending out the right messages to this different strata of society?
All right, let me start by putting across the fact that our human resource are our strength. We can't deny that. Gone are the days when we talk about the oil, the gold, the minerals. Yes, it's there. Those are the conventional way of looking at the resources that we have. But what we must build is the resource side of it. Okay. To me, the of the economy on a day-to-day basis, it is driven by the services sector. Plus the fact that there are enough innovative minds out there to create jobs along the way. This is just the dynamics of how the economic system works.
Yeah.
There are roles to be played by each and everyone along the way. You will never find a job or a food delivered purely on a solo flight. You can't. There are some other structures that you will have to build. And that is why we sort of move towards the services sector, in which the urban sectors will be dominated by that. Probability of jobs created along the way. But of course, the human resource thing, there must be an avenue for people to be retrained. Right?
Yeah.
And modules and options to retrain for skill-based, make it cheap for everybody. If it has to be a night classes for the youth to reveal his skill, by all means. Even if he has to do 3 types of jobs a day and go to night classes, those are the programs that we can put forward. And one more, all the programs can be online. So those are the flexibilities that we must exploit. Now, you look at, if you question about the strata, like I said, I'm a very optimistic person. Why should I look at the typical side of it? Those are challenges. We must not let a good crisis like COVID be unnoticed. Not able to make a reform out of that, right? If you look about the strata, I'm the one who like to look at the youth, the young, in every opportunity that we have, in every program that we have. You know, they are tech savvy. They know how to use a phone. They know how to use WhatsApp. They know how to sort of be on YouTube. They know how to be on the IT thing. They are riding the wave, and we must not let this wave, this talent, be wasted. They are full of them. We are full of this type of people who are very tech savvy. That is the plus factor of the current generation. And of course, the work definition of the present economy is not the old way of defining jobs. We must be aware of that. I can even do my job from the house and earn some money, right?
Good.
And I tell you what, I mean, at one point of time, I do have a program in which I try to educate those parents in the rural, those kids who are good in IT. They don't have to go to work like me and struggling with the traffic every morning. All they need to do is just stay at home, put up some IT stuff online, and they are able to earn some money. But the parent doesn't understand it. The parents are saying that their kids are just on the computer doing nothing, while their kids are doing some basic coding and programming for a firm which is 200 kilometers away. So the job stack that we have now is so different from the way we define jobs. One has to be very careful about that. But the question is, how do you scale this up? Right?
True. Correct.
That's the challenge for us.
No, I think that's the big question, Prof. How do we scale it up? And I think the point that you just made, which is also important, is this mindset of to think differently. I think, as you said, the ability to seek that opportunity, I think, is something that we need to begin to inject. I just want to check around first, Prof. Where we are with time. We still have good. Yeah, we still have 30 minutes. That's good, ample time. We have, in some ways or another, we've addressed the questions that's come through, be it in different way we asked it. I just want to check I seems to lost Dato' Sabaria. She's still with us. Just check with my team. We still have Dato'. Okay, so I have a few more. Let's go on the dialogue, Dato', whilst we wait for a few more signals from the rest of the questions to come in.
Okay.
Are you with us, Dato'?
Yes.
Okay, Prof.
Haji Ismail.
Yes. Okay. Oh yeah, you're back. Okay. Now with your mom.
Yes. Yeah. I have to leave now because I'm having another meeting.
Okay.
I'm going to VCK for the lab sessions.
Okay. Would you when you say a few words, Dato', before you leave us? We still have a good 30 minutes to dialogue. Okay.
Of you, especially Prof. Fatima, who has spent a lot of his time, not just these 2 hours, I believe, a full-fledged 2 hours, but also doing all the preparation for the slides and also the gist for what he is talking today. It's a brilliant idea to have her on board with the rest of our participants. Yeah, would like to congratulate again Ismail for the challenge that you take. As I said, you've done very well. And for the participants, thank you for staying on board. Yeah, this is a very interesting conversation that we maybe last time, without this pandemic, we may not be able to have this conversation in real time with those from far, yeah, especially those from other parts of Sarawak. This is a time where, like Prof. Fatimah is saying, yeah, the opportunity for another solutions is to me as well is could be better, and if we think for a better solutions. Thank you, Prof, for having yourself with us this morning. Yeah, Haji Ismail. Thank you, everyone. I have to leave.
Thank you, Dato'. Yeah. Prof, I think let's we have about a few more minutes. I have a few more questions that's running through my head, and I'm also trying to combine the questions that's coming in so that we make it a bit more comprehensive. Let me move away, Prof. I would not let you answer next as an economist or a subject matter expert. I just want your personal experience in this. I cannot but help myself ask it from a leadership perspective, Prof. From a leadership perspective, I think your experience in it. I think the pandemic itself has actually generated a very interesting discussion amongst how do you develop leaders going forward. Now, typically in the past, we tend to begin to look at the job description and begin to say, look, that's the job, look at the job description, this is what I'm looking for. The pandemic has begun to present itself slightly differently. We are beginning to look for leaders which have got characters beyond the role. And now, I mean, from your experience, Prof, if I were to ask you, what would those characters that you'd be looking for now if you were looking for leaders in a post-pandemic type of environment?
Well, okay, let me answer you as part of my university experience to address that. Okay.
Yeah.
We at the university, actually, our pandemic started many years ago.
Yeah.
Not in terms of the disease, but in terms of the resources that we have. Then at one hand, we have been entrusted to push the ranking into the top 50 and top 10 or what, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And my own experience going through this and upon reflection, of course, the ranking is a matter of national honor. Honor to the country, the prestige that we can bring to the country, you know, recognition that will come with it as far as University Malaya is concerned, okay? And that objective was being put to us, do or die type of scenario.
Okay. Okay.
Right? But mind you, that is where I would like to also mention that leadership is none other than our own Sarawakian hero.
Okay.
Professor Awang Bugibah.
Bugibah, yeah.
He leads us through. But leading through the last 4 or 5 years under his leadership, I'm talking more about his leadership, not mine, right?
Okay.
Not mine. I am sharing it with you.
Sure.
Our budget has been cut. I mean, how can you push toward world ranking, if you don't have the money? But we don't have any choice. The budget is not there. Then we have to sustain. We have to go on looking at that ranking, achieving that ranking, the first 50, the first 10 and whatnot. We are on 59 now. Another year we will sort of be there in below 50. That is the ultimate. That is part of the planning. And we put the planning 5 or 6 years, Bonaji. It is no joke. The time that goes into it, the discussion, the engagement, the openness, the criticism, the tears, and the sweat that goes into the planning of it.
True.
Right? We started in 2002, and it came our way now, almost 50 in terms of our ranking. But mind you, all those years, we are not given extra resources. And some of the resources have been cut down, you know. proactive. But the other challenge is, in terms of our internal leadership, we know what we wanted to do. Awang is Prof. Awang is a true leader, and of course we are proud of the fact that he's a Soudian. He put it very clearly to us what we want to achieve. But the moment you have problems, let me know. How can I help you? There you go, in terms of leadership, right? And of course, the difficulty is he pushed us to a level in which once we achieve that level, he will raise the bar again. It drives us nuts and crazy sometimes. You know, I mean, I thought that we have delivered in terms of our KPI. No, Prof. Awang will not do that. The next year, you are given another additional higher KPI.
Okay.
But the question is, what makes us rally around him?
Correct.
He is his son, yes. He's very open, he's very explicit. His doors are always open, his handphone are always available. He communicates his objective, what he wants, very clear about it. He did what he's supposed to be a leader. And the other thing that I also noticed in terms of his leadership, in which all of us rally behind him, is he is concerned about the young staff coming out with it. You know, the young staff that come as soon as they are on board, he makes sure that what is it that I can do to make sure that you are up to your next promotion, you can deliver the scientific paper. I know he cannot promise the funding because funding is tough. What is it, the enabling mechanism that I can do to help?
Okay.
So I have seen Awang in action. So I may not have the experience, so I'm just a but if I can share that experience, an experience of University Malaya to push for the ranking, despite having limited resources, right? Despite people are skeptical, why do we need a ranking? You know? Eventually, it said that the ranking is for global indexing. The ranking is for us to do it differently. Right?
Yeah.
So that may be something that I can share with you. Probably you need to call him again and sharing of presentation.
No, I think thanks, Prof. I think the silver lining there, it's simply I think it's the very word that we have used this morning, which is very much that his ability to engage, and I think his ability to humanize that target that you have to improve your global index, to humanize that in terms of we all have a part to play. And I think that goes beyond job description. It's not just performing your role. It is the character or the attribute that he brings in his role that makes the difference.
You're right.
I want to move on, Prof. I'm still watching our score. We still have about 132 people online. I know it's lunchtime. We are standing between lunch and them and lunch. I think we have about another 15 minutes. Prof, going back to subject matter economics. United Nations recently has spoken quite openly about rebirth of economy going forward. And I want to bring it to local context. And one of the things they begin to talk about is economies should begin to start looking at what they call sustainable investment. A lot of people now are buying, not buying brands, but people are now buying if the company is supporting the very cause that I am interested in. So if I'm interested in green economy, and if they are investing in that, I'll buy their product irrespective. Now they talk about 87% of customers globally, the survey that was done that talks about that. They interviewed about 94% of millennials are saying, I will only use my skill. Whatever skill I have, I will only use it to benefit, certain costs in the community. So we begin to see what we call sustainable investment. How do we translate that locally, Prof?
Okay, good area, interesting area. Okay, now part of the exercise to be sustainable is to really look beyond the GDP. once you are willing to look beyond the GDP step, you are already having one eye, so one thing on the sustainable frontier. Okay. Now, the other thing that I also want to share with you is that I'm not so sure whether the state government have looked in. I'm very sure. I'm very sure the state government has looked into all the UNDPs of the 12, the 17, sustainable development goals that have been listed. But of course, that is one thing about COVID. With the pandemic, one will have to have a relook at that 18 goals that has been listed under the Sustainable Development Goals.
SDG.
Right? But the good thing is that maybe with the pandemic, it will be high time for us to re-adjust and localize the measure, the concept, the philosophy behind each and every one of them. Right? To me, we don't have to take 18 of that, right? Because it's going to be costly. We will have to invest in a lot more. But if we can prioritize in terms of the sustainable index, then in line with the way we address the pandemic, why not? We just sort of merge it. We just sort of mesh it, right? Merge and mesh it. And then if it suits the local condition, why not? The good thing about the sustainability index, whatever objective you want to take, is that you must be able to admit, I can really visualize it. Right? For example, if I want a green product, you must have the green product in the market. What is the market share of that green product? Right? What are the amount of water that you use to produce that? So they have been very objective about it. So anybody who wish to adopt to that sustainability thing are being guided by these simple numbers. Right? So it is quite easy, it's quite targeted, but of course it needs a little bit of change in the way we manage the resources, and that is why the concept of the Green New Deal, the concept of circular economy come into force. I mean, I would love to propose to the Institute, well, why don't you have a short modules for what we consider as a circular economy? What is it? By having these modules written for you out of a discussion or out of a lab, then you are able to come up with some practical measures. It's at the agency level, at the community level, at the grassroots level, at whatever level. As long as we are sure about the measures, and then it is part of our strategy, we have to redefine the circular economy, because the circular economy is something that needs us to look beyond the GDP economy. Right? So if the Institute can come up with a simple modules, just to have the practical aspect of all those sustainability. Because we don't want it to be a concept that is just good on paper and no practical application.
Great.
But there's quite a lot that we can do actually.
I think it's an interesting one. I think it takes a broader discussion than the time we have. We really like that approach that you have taken. I've just been given the signal here that we need to call it a close, Prof. We need to call it a close. I would like to say, perhaps, any last words from you, Prof, before I wrap it up? Any last words from you, in the sense that if there's, for all the things that we have said the last two and a half hours, I think, 2.5 hours, if there's 3 things that we need to take away from this forum today, Prof, what would that be from you, Prof?
Okay, thank you very much, Nadia. Just 3 words, Prof, to my fellow Sarawakian. Jaga benar-benar Sarawak.
I like that.
Jaga benar-benar Sarawak.
I like that. To all my Sarawakians, I think we can repeat that statement very simply. Jaga benar-benar Sarawak. I think that's an obligation for us. And I did, Prof, as a boy, I can't sing, but as a boy, I like the song Sayang Sarawak. And I will try probably sing it in the next webinar. But we will use your tagline, Prof, from now on, Jaga Benar-Benar Sarawak. Yeah. And I think with that note, Prof, allow me on behalf of the state and behalf of everyone that's been here this morning to really express, I think the word that I will use to describe the 2.5 hours to the participants, to you, Prof, is awesome. That's just awesome. The last 2.5 hours, despite with the technicalities that we have to go through, I think the fact that we stayed, the fact that we make the best use of the time, I think it's just awesome. So to all and everyone, thank you very much. We will be in touch. And we have just set up the webinar evaluation form to all the participants that are still online, the 128 of you. Please provide us the feedback. This will only serve to improve what we have done. And I'm sure going forward, we will hear a lot more of Professor Dr. Fatimah Kari. She will be helping us jaga Sarawak benar-benar. So she will be with us. So Prof, thanks very much, Prof. Okay. So guys, thanks again. And I will go offline as well. So have a great lunch. Reflect on the many things we have said. Jaga benar-benar Sarawak, yeah.